and disruptive deployments. So, I'm just going to talk about real analytics. And Paul touched on this before, but analytics for us, and we're seeing it in WA, and I'll show you a really nice example of how it was applied to a particular client in WA. It's about the technology and the modelling techniques that really matter for analytics. Now, it's come a long way because now we've got the power, some pretty significant horsepower of modelling tools, inquiry tools, forensic tools, and database tools, combined with some pretty powerful processing capability to consume volumes of data, both structured and unstructured, and put these different relationships together. Now, when you combine that in parallel with what's going on in the visualisation space, and you combine analytics with visualisation, and you've got the ability to ask new and different questions, you're starting to drive different insights within the business. And in doing that, what we're seeing is these four categories of how one might apply analytics to your context and to your business is we can really fine-tune what business problem you're trying to solve to begin with. And if you get that right, it then sets you up for a continuous improvement regime within your business. What you can then do, part of your information management regime, is leverage the sort of information that you've got. Now, analytics has the ability to go through the back door, take extracts from all the different databases that might exist within your business. And I think the safety example is a good one, where certainly our analytics capability was able to join payroll information with rostering information, with mine site maintenance and scheduling information, with safety and incident management information, and start to paint a very different picture about what sort of trends were occurring in that space. And we started to see very different patterns that interrogation of someone in HR or someone in OH&S couldn't actually uncover themselves through their line of query. And so leveraging the right question with the multitude of data, with the technology and the modelling capabilities, starts to paint a very, very clear picture about what's actually currently happening. And it starts to debunk some myths about what your gut feel is telling you versus what the facts are telling you. And generally, gut feel and fact don't necessarily align. And we've, again, been able to prove that in certain circumstances where the hypothesis or the theory that comes out of the executive level can sometimes often be disproven. And we saw that example on the healthcare one, where those three doctors were perceived to be influential, but the facts said otherwise. And then from that, looking at leveraging the insights about then how do we then make changes in the business for the better, to drive value or a different proposition to compete on a better basis. So let me give you a real life example here. I love this picture. It's a wonderful picture. This is a Google map of the Perth metropolitan area. Each of those red dots represent a particular exception to a process for a particular business in WA. And that business in WA had major issues with these particular processes and couldn't figure out what was going on. They had spent months with a team of 6-7 people interrogating their information systems to uncover what was going on here. Because as you can imagine, there's a normal distribution of all these red dots across the metropolitan area. And you can imagine an individual in front of a screen interrogating the software application that's running this information, trying to find out what went wrong, what's happening, why is there a problem here. Now, through the analytics capability, asking the right questions, sourcing data from different databases and data sets and combining some information, plus the visualisation, quickly, in 2 or 3 weeks this took, compared to months of trying to find out what's going on, quickly identified there was clearly some clustering activity going on here that probably represented over 50% of the problems across the metro area. Now, when you look at this visually and you plot the data on a map, it very quickly tells a big story. Because this then says, well, which area of the metro is that? And that automatically provides you some meaningful information about what's actually potentially occurring there. Now, I can't reveal that for confidentiality reasons, but certainly if you look at those suburbs in Perth and join the dots about some recent initiatives around those suburbs, you might quickly figure out what the connection there is. But that's not the point. The point is the power of data analytics and the power of visualisation can tell a very telling picture quickly, efficiently, fact-based, and make a real difference to how a business might solve some of its challenges and problems today. And this was a real-life example in Western Australia.
And they also checked, did they look for the spaces where there wasn't problems as part of this example? Because there's some areas that don't have red dots on them, just the same as there's areas that do have red dots. So it's not just, looking at the other side of the trend as well.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Pat, because what that allowed to do was some contrasting between why is this particular suburb clean and this one is extremely dirty, right? That ability to contrast and say, well, is there a field officer that looks after this region versus a different one here? Are there different bits of hardware or software being deployed in that region versus the ones over here? So it allows you to ask very different questions, and that's the power of analytics that we see.